Okay, hi everybody. This is Mia. I am the founder of Travelpreneur Tribe, and I help people build and scale their businesses while they're traveling the world. I organize global workshops and retreats and bring business coaches and mentors together to help them on their journey. And today I am here with Pete Cafarchio, who is one of the coaches that has been part of the Travelpreneur Tribe community. And he is a certified coach, consultant, and a mentor who works with solo entrepreneurs and coaches to accelerate their performance. So thanks, Pete, for joining this interview.
Thank you. It's great. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So today, what we're going to be talking about is, so everybody knows about the minimum viable product, the MVP. But what Pete has and what he's going to address is another MVP, which is the minimum viable presence. And that is basically what is the minimum amount of presence that you need to have online, whether it's on your social media, your website, or your online presence to still be successful and not overdo it and not waste your time and energy. So, Pete, before we get into the details of the minimum viable presence, why don't you tell us a little about yourself, like how you got started and
Sure. So I'm an executive coach in New York City, and I help my clients get clarity and crush their goals. I'm also a partner in a coaching company that helps people turn their talents into strengths. And my background, though, is I have 22 years in high-tech startups. And so I've just loved to get things going, get things started. I was mainly in the software space in cybersecurity. And as I was going through some kind of mid-career changes and asking myself some deeper questions, I found there wasn't a lot of guidance on there, and I kind of stumbled my way through. And I picked up a lot of principles and powerful techniques and insights along the way. And just whenever that happens with me, I just naturally want to turn around and share that with other people. So some friends of mine said, Pete, people get paid for what you do, which was helping people and coaching them. Then I discovered coaching, started getting into it, and now I've been coaching for 5 years now, full-time for going on 3 years, and picked up my ICF credentials along the way, and just ongoing learner.
all right, nice. So it basically took you 2 years before you turned full-time. So
Yeah. I did a part-time side gig while I was still working, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I see like a lot of people are starting that way, and that's the situation that I'm currently in as well. So it's always good to hear from other folks, what is that time period that you really need, to become independent.
Yeah.
So, okay, so tell us a little more about like your business, right? Like, what can people really expect when they work with you?
Okay, so I happen to draw a lot of mid-career professionals,
Hmm.
and these are people that they're doing well in their careers, and they've quote unquote like proven themselves, and then they hit this point where, well, what's next? Corporate America, they bring you up to this point where you jump through all the hoops and you're established. But after that, there's not a lot of guidance. And if you've been relying on an outside source to tell you what is the definition of success, you hit this point and it's really a weird feeling. And for some people, that spins them off into a midlife crisis. Not good, right? But if we can catch people before that, I wind up coaching them. What we do is really get to find out what did they really want in life before they put their nose to the grindstone, and what are their real goals? What do they want to leave as a legacy? What do they want to do with the second half of their life? And I have different techniques and exercises to walk through to help draw that out. I also kind of have I don't know if you want to call it a gift or whatever, but as I get to know people, I can help them see those things, assimilate it. And then once we get that clarity, then we shift and get very practical on, okay, what are some goals that you can be setting that are going to advance those things that you've been neglecting? How do you move those forward? And how do we make those very actionable? And oftentimes it's things that people have been putting off, like starting a business, like you and I,
Hmm.
or whatever, because they think it's a huge leap. And and frankly, it could be, but if we can break that down, it's just what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? They're amazed at how fast they can start to get progress on things that they thought they'd have to delay for years.
For years, right? And that it's kind of like almost impossible to even get there. So,
Right.
but it's funny that you say, because I speak to like a lot of people, right, that really skip that first part of it, right? And that's like, what do you really want to do, right? What's going to make you happy? And also the part that goes into it, like really changing your beliefs, right? Because a lot of people have those
Absolutely.
limiting beliefs. So even before you can get into that second part of it, how do you do it? What do you do, like with sales and marketing and everything that we're going to be talking about, right? In this interview, but they really skip that first part, like what's going to really make them happy.
Well, that's because, and they're stuck in that mode because corporate America just trained you to do that, to execute. And they don't often ask you, like, where are we headed or why? What's your big why? If you've read Simon Sinek's book. So I love doing, I like both sides of it, but there's the first part is
crucial, I think.
Unexplored.
Yeah, unexplored. Okay. And
yeah.
Crucial.
Very, very important. But people, they're not used to processing through that.
Yeah. Okay, interesting. So let's get to the point, right? So what is the minimum viable presence?
Okay, so I kind of developed this concept as a little tongue in cheek, like you said, a play on the minimal viable product. And by the way, if you don't know minimal viable product, watch Mia's other videos and the other things in Travelpreneur Tribe. It's really important that you build only what's barely, just what's minimum, so you can test to see if people are resonating with your message and buying your product. Are you meeting their needs? Don't go and build out this great, detailed, nuanced product first and then offer it to the market. Just do the bare minimum, get feedback, and build it according to the feedback that you get from your buying market. Well, the same thing happens, I find, with your online presence, and that I'm just going to roughly say that's your website, social media presence, other things that you might do that are outbound and bring, show you in a good light. And what I've found is, as I talk to people, I can't go live yet because I need someone to go build my website. I can't go live yet because my Facebook page isn't up yet, or I haven't made it live yet. And I kind of have a radar for that now because I was doing the same thing, and now I'm like, is that real or is that just an excuse? And so the first thing I would like to address when we talk about minimal viable product is this challenge. And by the way, it's overwhelming. I mean, there are so many social media platforms out there, and to do a good job, I mean, anyone can slap a page up there, but add the right graphics, all these bells and whistles. Each one of them has, Facebook's probably got hundreds of them, and each one has all these nuances you can add, and it really can be overwhelming. So that part's legit. But I've also found people that use that complication as an excuse to delay getting started. And as a coach, you would know, like, I've been told I give people a big hug and I kick them in the pants at the same time. A little bit of the kick in the pants part of it, because oftentimes the real challenge is those limiting beliefs. Okay. And the three that I most normally run into, one is imposter syndrome, which means, like, who do you think you are? Or are you qualified to do this? I don't think so. And that's that nagging doubt voice in the back of your mind makes you feel like an imposter. You got to learn to deal with that. The second is comparison. And by the way, there's no brand new idea. So any idea you have, someone else is doing something either very similar to it or totally similar to it. And you can compare yourself. Well, I'm not as good as them, and people won't buy. Baloney. You do it your way, and you don't have to compare yourself. And the third is perfectionism.
That's a big one.
Yeah, real big. Like, it's got to be better before my website, it's almost done, but it's got to be better, or all these other things. And I haven't really launched yet, and it's just an excuse. It's a delay, and you have to get comfortable with launching like 80% done. And it's better to launch 80% done because Mia, you know this as well as I do. We all start out with this idea. Oh, this is the way my business is going to be. And as you get going, you're like, oh, that's not what I thought. People want this instead, or it takes these twists and turns. And where you wind up is not where exactly what you thought when you envisioned it.
Exactly.
Why waste time getting it perfect when it's going to morph anyway, right? Go minimum viable product and your minimum viable presence. Okay. So, so the cure that I say, the kick in the pants to that is, to deal with those is, look, you need, when you build out your company, it's so easy to get distracted by all these other things. You need to be selling. You have to be selling. You have to find out if your service is something people will pay money for. Not that they told you they pay money for, but they actually pay money for. And you need to be selling those things. If you do that, there's this huge benefit is that you have cash flow now that you can go build out a better website that you know, the one that you really wanted with bells and whistles and expand and do all these other things. But it's get very, very focused on profitability and selling, then think about bells and whistles and expansion. Okay, so do it bare minimum. And here's the other thing that we say: do it afraid, but just do it. Okay?
Yeah.
Those things we're talking about, imposter syndrome and comparison and perfectionism, they don't go away. It's just you have to choose to not listen to them. They're always going to be there. Oh, who do you think you are? Yeah, well, you know what? I'm not even going to have this discussion. Here's my plan. I'm going to take the next step.
Yeah.
And it'll be there. But if you don't focus on it, the volume goes down. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I mean, a lot of the people, you know, are talking just about that, how like fear has everything to do, you know, with us growing, you know, whether it's personally, whether it's professionally. And fear is that little voice telling you, right, you can't do that or that you're not good enough. So like, how do you learn to cope with it? How do you understand it, right? And one of the things that I really learned, you know, that people think, well, that is me, right? That little voice, that's me. But that's really not you. That's like your ego speaking to you,
Yeah.
you know? So like if you really understand that voice is not you and that you still have your mind to do whatever it is that you want, then you kind of like separate yourself from it and be able to move forward. So
yeah, some people will even like a mental hack is they'll actually give it a name, that voice.
yeah.
I have a little conversation. It's like, look, I know you're having a tantrum, but you're not in charge. I am. Go sit in the corner.
Yeah.
Forward. Whatever works for you. But yeah.
Do you have a name for it?
I call mine caveman.
Caveman.
He likes to live in this dark, cold cave and pop out. I had a guy in his I think his 50s, and he called his Sally because it reminded him of this little girl. It was
always like nagging.
Yeah. Whatever.
That's funny. I don't have a name. I should come up with a name.
If that works, but the key is, but here's the thing: don't expect that it will go away.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get really frustrated then. Well, you know, I thought I overcame my fears. Like, no, it's a dance. It is like every day. You've just got to realize it's not going to go away, and you just keep pressing through and keep doing the right things.
Yeah.
You know. Okay, so once you deal with those mindset issues, the next thing to ask yourself is what level of presence is actually needed. Now, you're not the one who gets to determine that. Okay, the where that gets determined is actually with your customers. Okay, so I have a few questions to ask. The first is, like, what's the nature of your business? What are you selling? If you're selling physical products, or, you know, handcrafts, different things like that, you need to know like what your product is and what people are buying and why they are buying it. Okay? If you're selling services like I do, coaching, what I'm selling? Well, I don't actually sell coaching services. I sell people's success and goals. That's what they want. They're stuck and they want to get past that. So that's what I'm helping them do, and that's what I'm selling. And depending on what you're selling, then you need to understand, what does your target audience need from you in order to make them feel safe and they trust you, so they'll actually make a purchase. Okay, so if it's a item, Probably they'll probably want a picture, and having a reputation as a good seller is a good thing. For me, it's real simple. If you're in a services profession, it's know, like, and trust. People need to know you, they need to like you, and they need to trust you. Okay, so understand not from what you think you need to. Because, oh, I got to do a blog, I got to do all these other things. No, go from your customer's point of view. What do they expect? And by the way, if you're in either of a business, if it's hard goods or services, you already have a circle of people who already know you, who already trust you. And it's probably, if you think about it, it's not part of this presentation, but I have a list. You can get like 400 names very quickly if you just think about circles of past employees, friends, family. Bam, you've got all these names. They already know and like you. So you can start there. Right? You don't have to go big, public, and global all the time. Just start there and test that and see what you can sell. But again, understand what they're looking for in order to make that purchase. Then you can go into the next phase, which is what to build, what kind of presence to build. And this is where I like to get creative, because again, there's some really fantastic websites out there, and there's great platforms now too. I was just looking at one the other day that'll help you sell online courses. It'll help you build a website. It does the email, all integrated, social media. It's amazing. It's expensive too, but it was pretty amazing. And things they're rapidly advancing. But think minimum. Okay, so after you know what do people need from you, then think, how can I give them just the minimum so I can start making money? Then I can build later. And this is where it's fun to get creative. So if you are going to build a website, what are the goals of that website? Are you going to sell products? Okay, then you're probably going to have integrate probably with some kind of e-commerce platform, shopping cart. Is it just really to provide credibility? Is it just to explain what you do? Just to get a conversation started? Yeah. Right? To book appointments, it just figure that out. Again, minimum. And then this is the other thing I do. I ask people, what's the minimum? And then I say, but what's the bare minimum? Ask yourself again and start cutting and cutting and cutting. You know what? All I need is one page. Usually, if you're in services like me, one page on a website. Here's my picture. This is my name. This is what I do. This is what I do for people, actually results oriented, and this is how to get in touch with me. We should call it brochureware, because it's just like a brochure. It's actually all that's needed. And you don't even have to have that, but it's a nice thing to have if you need to have a website. And you can get one up for like $20. It's easy, and you can do it yourself. Yeah. So that's bare minimum. There's even alternatives to that. I know people that started their business with just a Facebook page. And now they have Marketplace, right? So you can sell things through that. I know professionals who did services like consulting. And I was talking to this guy. I was on his LinkedIn page, and I said, well, where's your website? And he goes, I don't have one. Only thing I ever use is my LinkedIn page, and it works. He's got more appointments than he can fulfill.
Wow.
Okay. So there's challenge all of your assumptions. Okay.
Yeah.
And here's the point. I don't want to keep you from having a strong presence. It's just, I don't want you to get overwhelmed by thinking you have to do all these other things that don't really result in revenue. They're nice to have. Look, you're in this for a long haul. So you're going to build on it. You're going to be able to become an established expert. Great if you're going to start blogging, you're putting out articles and things. But get started now, and then add to that in the future.
Yeah, because I look at it, right? I mean, it's a process. It's like steps, right? You're just taking the first step. It doesn't mean that you're not going to continue building, right? But you're just going to build one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So.
And also, like, there's plenty of people that will take your money and say, oh, you need this and you need this. You got to be careful who you're listening to. Mm-hmm. I actually built my first website for free. And I'll tell you how, because I didn't do it. I had one of my clients who happened to be good at web development, and we did a services swap. I was coaching him, and he said, well, in partial payment to me, he actually built out my website, and it was better than I could have done. So
yeah, definitely. I mean, bartering, people I see online, in the groups, like people are doing a lot of bartering, which is great, because it's like if we have the skills that we can exchange, like why not? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's basically my message on minimal viable presence. Again, you can build on it, but don't get hung up on it. And also with your audience, which social media platform do they want to get? You know, where are they hanging out? Like if you've got like I've got mid-career people, I don't even heard of Snapchat, or they don't use it at all. That's a much
Yeah.
younger platform. They're definitely on LinkedIn, and they're on Facebook. Some of them are on Twitter. And some are on Instagram, but I know my audience, and I know where they expect to see me show up and where it looks more credible for me to be. Right. But if you're selling product and you're selling product to young people, or say music or something like that, get in on some of the platforms that skew younger.
Yeah, like you don't have to be across all the platforms, right? Like you can even just start with one and see how it works and whether you have a success there or not, and then you can switch to the other one and see there. But
Great advice, what Mia just said. Everyone, do that.
start somewhere.
Yeah. You have to experiment a little bit.
Yeah, so actually one of the things that I'm doing right now is the customer development with my potential clients, and those are the same conversations that I have with a very early stage entrepreneurs, right, that are just looking to start their businesses, or they have just started, and that is specifically like, one of the things, they just like, it's too much, it's overwhelming, there's so much out there. So how do you really narrow down all of it, right, to a very simple process where you really get a minimal things done with a minimum effort, and start building on that and learning.
Mm-hmm. I do blogging. I do one approximately once a week, and I love it. I love getting my message out there, but I'm telling you, it can take up a lot of time, not just writing the blog, but after you go live with it, checking the metrics, who's following it, and it can really be a big time sink. And so I have to be very disciplined to make sure what's the priority here.
Yeah. Okay, sounds good. So, given that we were talking, about some of the problems that people were having when starting their businesses,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious, what were some of the things that you personally were struggling starting your business?
Okay, great question. I already talked about a few of them, which was the mindset issues, and imposter syndrome was probably the biggest one. Like, oh, who am I? I don't know if I'm an expert. And especially with coaching, because people are like opening up their lives and telling you big issues. And as a coach, you don't have to be a problem solver. You're more of a guide. So that was one, was imposter syndrome. The other big one was shifting when I went full time, shifting out of into a self-employment mindset is not easy. I mean, my whole life I worked for other companies, and going from someone else setting your priorities and paying you to you have to do everything yourself. It really, I love the freedom, but it changed. I had to really change some of my habits and my self-discipline. And there's a lot of great information out there to help you with that, but I really had to learn some important hacks with scheduling, getting stuff done, my to-do list, all those other things.
Prioritizing.
Absolutely. And there's no one to tell you you're doing it right or wrong.
Exactly. So I'm a project manager, right? And
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm used to like managing those type of things, for like large projects, but then it's like you actually give that work to somebody else, and then you can still focus on like cleaning up everything and making sure that everything is right. When you're starting your business, guess what? It's you and all of your imaginary friends around you. And not only that you have to organize everything, but you actually have to do all the work as well. And that's where, it was challenging for me, right? Not just organizing, but actually doing everything and learning around the process. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd say that probably the third challenge for me was just narrowing my focus. I am naturally super curious about so many things, and I love to learn all the time. And so to just narrow down at least my outbound marketing focus. Once somebody's my client, I'll talk about anything. I mean, I'll coach them on as long as I feel like it's ethically I'm competent and I can do that. But really to narrow that down, and sometimes it just takes some experimentation and trying some things.
You mean like narrowing down your target market, or
Yes,
like your
yeah.
message, who you're reaching to?
Yes, and yes.
Yes.
All of it. Yeah, because I plus I'm a problem solver, so I enjoy a challenge, and I enjoy curveballs and individualizing everything, and that just doesn't work well for getting establishing a brand or a presence. You really do have to kind of have one main area. So I had to learn that it's okay to do that and still engage people as an individual after I know them. But yeah, that was probably my other larger challenge.
Mm. Good. It's good to know that everybody has challenges when they're starting up and when they're growing
That's
and
right.
during the process. So.
Yeah.
So what would you say, what were some of like the resources that really helped you, whether, it was like a book that impacted you more personally, right, on kind of like those limiting beliefs, or if you want to share some resources on some of like the how-tos, right? Like, let's say you mentioned, sales, right? For instance, like just go out there and sell. So what did it be? What helped you the most?
Okay, so speaking of resources, I did want to mention, maybe we'll say this later, but I actually made a guide for everything we're talking about today. And I put it up on my website. So if you go to petecoaching.com/MVP, I've got a free download that can help you just think through these things, your mindsets and your audience, and then what can you do about it. For things that have helped me personally, one book that I highly recommend to a lot of my clients, helped me immensely. It's called Mindset. And the author's name is Carol Dweck, Dweck. It's an easy read, which is good because I don't reading for me is a chore. It was really powerful, and it basically frees you up that it's okay to make mistakes, because really what you're doing is learning. It's not about being perfect and about doing everything right the first time, but we're trained that way in our school systems. It's like get in the best score on the tests and all these things, but instead changing that to what's called a growth mindset. So you can just learn, keep trying. And if something didn't work out, fine. I just gained some valuable experience. I learned from it, and I'm going to go try something different. So mindset was really big for me. As far as selling, there's a good book out. I'm looking on my shelf right now. Rainmaker was really helpful.
Rainmaker.
Yeah, Rainmaker. Yeah.
It rain.
Yeah, it's here. I got it.
Let's see it.
Okay, here we go. Ta-da!
All right.
So Jeffrey Fox.
I'm a Rainmaker.
Yeah, and again, easy read. Each chapter is like 2 pages or 3 pages, and they're just different aspects of selling, but a lot of them are a little different. They're a little different take. Like, some people won't send an email like before 8 o'clock or after 6 p.m. And it's like, no, purposely do it outside of those times, because it'll say to first of all, your target probably is less busy, and it also shows that you're really dedicated to reaching them. So that's just one tip. That's a good book. Also, as a coach, this would be specific. I'd say not just coaches. This could be any entrepreneur. You really need to find a tribe. And I'm in a couple of them. And that made a big, big difference for me. As a coach, I'm in one called the Professional Christian Coaching Institute. And it gave me, I got my education through them. It's ICF certified, but I met a lot of friends. And I'll tell you, I might have a client, or I'm about to land a client, right? I just had this big prospect and they want a different kind of contract and I don't have one. What do I do? I could research that and go on Google, but you got to sort through that. I just call my friends now. I say, hey, this is my situation. Can anyone help? Bam. I mean, we have Facebook groups and stuff. Usually within like half an hour, I've got a couple of really strong suggestions. I've gotten book recommendations for my clients, anything, just things to help you. And I'll tell you, sometimes when you're just down, You know, you worked really, really hard, and it's just things are not clicking. The phone's not ringing, the orders aren't coming in, and you can just get bummed. You need people around you to help you get perspective and to help
Yeah.
you, boost you.
Yeah, that's great.
Like the Travelpreneur Tribe.
Exactly. So thank you so much, Pete. I know we're like running out of time, but this was so informative, and I learned a lot. And I'm sure that the rest of the folks that are going to be watching this broadcast, that it's going to be very useful to them. So just a final, if anybody wants to reach out to you personally and find out more, where can they reach you?
Okay, so my website, petecoaching.com. You can go to the contact tab, and that's the best way to reach me. And again, I mentioned I have this free handout, petecoaching.com/MVP. But yeah, I'm in New York, but I'll tell you, most of my clients are not in New York, and I do a lot of my coaching virtually over video calls. But if you have any questions about this stuff, I just love to help people. So let's just keep the community going here.
Sounds good. And please feel free to post your link. I'm going to put it on Facebook for that MVP, the minimum viable presence, where they can actually find out more and do some of these exercises. So I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much, and we will speak again soon.
Thank you, Mia.
Thanks. Bye-bye.